Hello and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Mono Balagbobo. Happy New Year in advance. Just a day to go into the new year. But before we get into the new year, it's very important that we break down some of the major shakeups in the world of politics. Well, today we will be focusing on the economy, looking at how well President Tinubu has performed. So let's take a look at our talking points, which will focus on some of his key policy. First, we'll look at the lingering impact of fuel subsidy removal, the unification of exchange rates, and the value of the naira, and also what is poised to be a big one coming in 2025. That's when it's fully activated. That's the tax reform bills. And joining us live in the studio is Dr. Ali Ilyas, a political economist, and of course a supply chain expert and development expert. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being with us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is all ours. We'll go on a quick breather. When we come back, we'll begin to break down some of the big stories of the day and then straight into our conversation. To stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Big news today as Warri Refinery goes live. That's according to the NNPC. And I'm wondering why journalists are putting up that headline, because they don't want to say Warri goes live on their own. It has to come from the horse's mouth. Well, let's give you the details. The 125,000 barrels per day Warri Refining and Petrochemicals Company in Warri Delta State is now up and running. This was disclosed by the group chief executive officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Milal Kyari, during a tour of the facility on Monday. Before the tour of the facility began, Kyari was seen addressing the team, saying, "We are taking you through our plant, and this plant is running. Although it is not 100% complete, we are still in the process. Many people think these things are not real. They think real things are not possible in this country." And he says, "We want you to see that this is real." Among the third team was the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed. And of course, the refinery is located at the Ekpan, Uvie, and Ubeji Warri Petrochemical Plant. It produces 13,000 million tons per annum of polypropylene and 18,000 MT of carbon black. And of course, it was commissioned in 1978, managed by the NNPC, and it was built to supply markets in the southwest and regions of Nigeria. The mechanical completion of the facility was earlier scheduled for completion in the first quarter of this year, according to the spokesperson of the NNPC, Olufemi Shoneye. The other two include the old and new Port Harcourt Refinery in Rivers State and the Kaduna Refinery and Petrochemical Company in Kaduna State. And this is coming on the heels of crude refinery, now the old Port Harcourt Refinery. So that's quite a lot to unpack. Doctor, this is a news that we did not see coming today. But are you excited? Because, I mean, for me personally, I know my opinion is not supposed to matter on a show like this. Coming from the excitement of the Dangote Refinery and then the old refinery in Port Harcourt, Nigerians were very excited that, I mean, this would lead to immediate price reduction, but that did not happen. What's your response to this development?
Right, it's a good news, and kudos to the Tinubu administration. This is core for them, and you know that anything that has to do with supply side, it's always good for economy, because when you have more supply, that means it may likely affect the price, and demand, will be lower when there is more. So, but it's a good news. 125,000 barrel per day. That could take maybe 5% of what we need a day. Having the fact that the other one would take 2.5%, plus or minus, we're looking at 7.5 from 100% that we need. It's not a good
Dangote is taking how many percent?
Dangote have what can even actually that is sufficient for, you can sufficiently supply Nigeria what we need every day. Should be 600 barrel or something. But the fact is just that 600,000. The fact just means that we need more supply side. For me, I'm not
But
celebrating
as a
that much.
country, is it surprising for you that we can't produce as much as what Dangote is producing?
Well, those refinery actually capacity is not that much. If you combine all the 4 refineries we have, I don't think we can do more than 22,000.
That's when Kaduna comes offline.
Everything work 100%. So, and we need 100%.
Well,
So
for a country as
17%
blessed as Nigeria, I mean, since the 1960s, you know, the golden days when crude oil was discovered, what did you think was responsible for us not even producing up to 50%?
I think
till Dangote came to save the day?
I think we failed to plan ahead of time, and that's the challenge of not only Nigeria but
Who
Africa.
now? Those in the 1960s?
Exactly, those in the government, they fail to plan. You know, when you see the numbers of your citizens and when you see the way things are going, even now that we are still doing more in terms of CNG, petroleum, people are moving outside, moving to electricity, moving to other source of energy. Right, so and we are still behind. So we must find a way to always think, you know, for the future and make sure that we do what you're supposed to do. Because now I must also remind you that those refineries you are looking at, they are old refinery. Dangote refinery.
So they are more of like refurbished.
Exactly, it's modern refinery that can have capacity to produce a lot of things. Some of them are even much more blending. You know, they have to take this from this, take this from this, and blend.
I noticed in the reports there was nothing like, okay, field refinery. It was more of like blending, which was the accusation for the old Port Harcourt refinery.
It's actually not bad to blend, but at this level, that shouldn't be what we are doing. Perhaps, you know, the foreign refinery, one could be supplying, you know, other things that will blend, but to still be within our refinery. But it's still a good news. It's a good. But for me, what I want the 3 combination. Why NNPC is producing, Dangote is producing, they should also allow importation.
You know, when you mentioned that before we started the show today, I was a bit skeptical because, well, like we should be a producing country and not an importing country. Does that make sense? Or I don't get it at all? You're the economist anyway.
You know, in economics, we believe in competition. Competition will bring the best out of every.
But has it brought the best in terms of our local production, because that has affected the naira, I mean the exchange rate?
We are just producing. We're just producing for the last 20, 25, 30 years. So, but if we had been producing and we have been jacking it up and we have indigenous producers and we have importation, because I can tell you, there's what we call economic of scale, right? It is possible that the product you have, you still produce it in an expensive manner. It's possible you import, and the imported one is cheaper because of what they have available new technology. They have you know, a lot of labor.
So how about supporting homegrown businesses?
That's the problem we are having. You know, by this, you recall, even when Dangote came on stream, he has to employ Nigerians and send them abroad to go and learn for at least a year. If we had Warri Refinery, no, Port Harcourt 1965, up to now, we still have to send people to go and learn. Why can't they learn? That means we have not grown our technical capacity, which is a serious problem. So for me, I think I would like to subscribe to importation, private production, and NNPC production. It will help us a lot. A good example is America. America have about 132 refinery, but they still import. Saudi Arabia at this level still give room for importation. That simply means, and you must also recall, petroleum product or oil is a global product. So you can't say that they shouldn't import because it's a global, you know, for instance, when there's issues of dollar, you know, issue of foreign currency, now dollar is about 1,000. You have direct effect on the cost of petroleum products in Nigeria. And also, when there is a global change in petroleum price, it's general. We won't say because you are in Nigeria. Perhaps, if that's actually work, we're supposed to say, okay, let us be buying at 400. Because I can tell you that today, most countries that produce, we are still the one that is buying more. That is, most countries that own this oil. Look at Libya. Even at the level of their war, they still buy cheaper compared to Nigeria. Look at Iran, look at Iraq. So if you look at that, generally, Nigeria is still not doing well. We're supposed to have our own indigenous and also buy cheap.
So what should be the percentage ratio in terms of what we allow in and what we produce?
Good. Now, Dangote has capacity to produce 100% of what we need. Allow him to do that. But remember, up to now, marketers still having issue with Dangote. They are still, record Dangote said he will only have partner with MRS, which is there's a Philips they call MRS, a marketer. And other marketers, where would they, if you don't have partner with them, you are selling at 9.35 at MRS, where should they go? That means you will sell to them like 9.8. So it's also good for them to free them, let them go out. If they can see where they will buy it at 9.10, at 900, they should bring it so that there will be good competition. Because I can tell you, NNPC does not have capacity to compete with Dangote. It will only increase our supply side, which is better. But in terms of capacity, in terms of price, Dangote will still determine the price.
And of course, the federal government is not making any projections to meet up to whatever Dangote is producing.
They cannot. It is even clear. They cannot. Dangote can produce what we need every day, while they can only supply 22%.
So let's get to the nitty-gritty of what affects Nigerians, which is the price.
Right.
What can you foresee with the speed with which local refinery is, coming back online? Where do you see the price in, let's say, this time next year?
Well, there's a lot of things that will come on board. Recall, most of us have converted our car to CNG. Our number is not small, provided the government can also make cascade and availability, because we have to expend 3 hours man hour to get CNG. And recall, it's not like fuel that you can buy big. You can only buy 3,000. So perhaps you're a commercial driver, within 3 hours, you have exhausted. So if you're a private person,
so what's the feasibility that commercial drivers would want to make that change?
They are there already. They benefit more because they can come 3 times and buy. And that's why I say that there should be availability of the CNG stations where people can go inside and buy. It's economical for them. Let me give you these statistics. If a commercial driver buy 3,000, he can make like 30,000 from it. But if he buys fuel of 30,000, he can barely make 15,000 from it. So he will always prefer that, let me go there, queue, anytime it gets to me. I actually interact with a lot of them because I also queue there too. You see them say that they cannot manage with fuel. You can't break even. So that's therefore for fuel and Nigerians, I think the thing is, by this time next year, I foresee that fuel will have come down, but not significant. I can tell you that. I can say it can't come down more than 700. I don't know the competition that will make it come down like that. Then the purchasing power is a problem. Remember, transport is our problem. So I don't see Nigeria benefiting that much until this government is making things much more easier. And how do you make it easier? Recall that the major cost of inflation is food. So now if government can find a way to help the supply chain, that any vehicle is actually carrying food or moving from one place to the other, if they can find a way to convince them that we can have like 30% converted to CNG, and those that are on fuel, they also know that they have an alternative. If not, this food and the way things are expensive will definitely I don't see this because it's now private, and it's Dangote thing. Now, I can tell you that, and why I say Dangote is the major supplier of it. So he has this. So for me, by this time next year, we could have more marginal decrease, just like the one we have maybe to like 900 or 8 something. You know why? You remember I said the international currency, that is forex, is a factor. Until our forex can come down, you will see that even in the projection, the budget, it's at 1,500. So if it's still 1,500, I don't see us moving down very well because it's a factor.
So is it all doom and gloom? Anyway, before we focus on that, let's get back to the course of the day, which we planned before the whole breaking news of the Warri Refinery. Now, Nigeria is grappling with its worst cost of living crisis in nearly 30 years, and President Bola Tinubu, who was praised as a renewer of hope just last year, particularly, he came up with subsidy removal, and with deepened poverty and frustration over government inaction leading to public outrage and protest, the country is once again at an inflection point, and it needs a stark policy turnaround to face its economic woes. In a single jarring sentence, the president announced the removal of fuel consumption subsidy without adequate compensatory measures. These and other economic decisions that neglect economic rights have contributed to Nigeria's worst cost of living crisis in almost 30 years, pushing millions of people deeper into poverty. Removing the subsidy contributed to inflation surging to 34.19% by June of this year, with food inflation exceeding 40%. Millions of people have been thrust into a desperate struggle to afford necessities in a country where over 80% of the estimated more than 200 million people live in poverty. Now, I mean, it's the ending of the year, and just like any proper businessman or an individual, we have this self-reflection times. Now, as a country, looking at some of the policies of the president, I mean, I wouldn't say there was any major economic policy this year. It's just like the ripple effects of what he did in 2023. So what is your assessment so far? I mean, you came in this morning today and we're both talking about the impact of economic hardship so far. So how, as the president, I mean, it's impossible to walk back, returning subsidy. He made that clear during the media chat, which right. I'm sure you you mentioned. Right. So how has he fared in terms of getting back on track? As a personal a mantra for me, I don't like to talk about problems or what can we do to solve. So we're not here to complain that, subsidy was removed. But how has he been able to at least walk back in a way that makes sense, economically speaking, and also the human rights angle to this issue?
Right. I actually listened to Mr. President. I was disappointed, I must say, when he made mention of I have a friend who used Rolls Royce before. Now he's using Honda. I tried to bring it back to common citizen who can afford 3 square meals before and is now managing one. And President said, yes, you have to learn how to manage. It's somehow, that means it doesn't have really touch of people. Perhaps he doesn't know the impact for subsidy removal. And he also came out and said he didn't regret it. Well, we don't expect him to regret. But my own problem is that the flotation of Naira. Somebody I expect...
but sorry to cut you short. On the issue of subsidy removal, is this your human angle aspect speaking now or the economist in you? I just want to be clear on that.
That's first subsidy that is not bad.
Removed, yes.
Removal of first subsidy as an economist is not bad. But you recall, we must bring that caveat. President Buhari made some plans. Among the plan was the CNG, right? And the CNG up to now, we are still not getting it right. Among that also, he promised refinery that will be working. 2 years, almost 2 years down the line, refinery is just working. That's what actually made it. We also talk about a lot of poverty reduction programs that he brought about. Those things are not in place, and you are removing the fuel subsidy. That's the major problem. The second one is the issue of flotation. Flotation of Naira, willing buyer, willing seller. It's what kills it all, because you cannot bring two variables that has negative impact on citizens together at the same time. So let's take it this way. Imagine he removed the first subsidy, but he didn't float the Naira. So we would have used that, transport.
Do you think the country would have been in a better position, yes, economically speaking, if that was the case?
Better position, and it would be manageable. But now everything got scattered, and we have to start packing it.
Do you think it's an indictment on the president? Because a lot of the complaints people had was that why make such a statement when you've not even formed your economic team, right, and have people properly advise you on how to go about this?
From the media chat, I understood that our president doesn't get some things right. You know what he said? His only excuse was that people are taking our petroleum products out of Nigeria, that we are servicing other. That was his excuse now. There was no any other thing he said. And that will force him, is an indictment on him. You as the president got to know that somebody is siphoning, is smuggling your product. What are you supposed to do? Why not arrest that situation? Not come and suffer the entire country on it. That's I find it very difficult to understand. Somebody is stealing. You instead of to stop the person that is stealing, you say no, the entire household should suffer. So for me, I think that argument does not hold water.
But would it be in stopping the stealing? Would it have been difficult, considering the fact that he always says these are the elites of the elites? Definitely, some of these people are the president's friend.
Right.
So was that why he told that path?
Well, the thing is, are you sacrificing the minute elite for the entire Nigerians? Because I can tell you, this is what Nigerians benefit from for a subsidy. You have to take it away. You can check the level of suffering now, it's very high. And at the same time, we have food that's very, very expensive. So if you look at our income now, most of us spend our income on food and transportation. For our rent, school fees, you have to be looking for autonomous consumption, as we used to say. So it's a serious...
Other means of income.
Yes, other means of income. You have to go and look for it. And what is other means of income? I can tell you since the first of the removal, some people have resorted sleeping in the office. Up till now, it's not getting any better because there's nothing the government has done that actually pushing the effect of fuel subsidy. So it's a serious issue. In as much as we agree, you are supposed to do some things before you decide to actually embark on such policy.
Now, during the course of the year 2024, there was this back and forth between Nigerians and the IMF and the World Bank about some of these reforms, like President Tinubu is too in line, like with some of their ideologies. Looking at his how he views the economy and some of the decisions he has taken, economically speaking, does it really make sense? Do you feel that those people are right, that saying yes, the president is more in line with some of their ideologies?
You see, with institutions, they are selfish, I should say, because it's anything that benefits them that they want to look. I don't blame them. The lens they are using to look at the Nigerian economy is not the lens that we in Nigeria are looking. They are looking at aggregates and how it should benefit them. For instance, the IMF head came to Nigeria and said, we need to continue this level of hardship for the next 15 years for we to break away from poverty. He came to Nigeria and said so. So if you ask me as an economist, I don't think I don't know the variable is putting in place that we must continue like this. We must not follow that pattern. There are different ways of doing, and it depends on the present economic team. And that's why some of us tend to say this economic team, we have not seen what they are doing. Look at CBN, upon all the hawkish approach that they actually apply, we are still at 34%. Inflation rate. Meanwhile, the target last year was at 21%. They are thinking of halving it.
So that 15% for 2025, is that more of just like words on paper?
I don't know the magic that will bring that, because you want to reduce by 59%. And you are also saying that we are going to, dollar is still at 1.
But some of your colleagues in the world of economics feel that is possible. But does possible equals reality? I don't know.
The fact is that if you look at the reality, to be candid, even the budget itself, budget of 49 trillion, it's patchy sum for me, for a country like this. If you do 100 trillion, for me to jumpstart the economy, that's what I actually expect. So for me, I don't know how it's going to happen. For 2023, the budget we did against 2024 was that you have it by 21%. It's now 34%. And all what we were supposed to solve, which is legacy problems, we have not solved them up to now. Remember, our major cause of inflation is cost push inflation, which is majorly food. Food is about over 40%. President declares state of emergency on food security. Up till now, we have not seen the effect of food security. So how are we going to get that? But I won't blame them. Budget is a proposed income and proposed expense. So it's a proposal. So we may not actually get it 100%. So I think, maybe that's why they put it. They are ambitious, but I think they're over ambitious in that direction.
Now, let's come to the value of the naira. Now, how much of that in the course of this year has played in terms of the economic viability of us as a nation?
What actually brings about that problem is that value of naira, which is forex issue. So if you give a governor 200 million, the value now is like 70 million. Because that's why I talk about flotation. So no matter how much you are giving out to individuals, to palliative, it will not have that value. And that's where we are getting. And we must do all what we can do to make sure that value. In honest, the CBN governor tried about different, in fact I can count up to 35 to 40 policy framework He tried to put, he tried to bring about the Bureau de change, tried to stop importation, tried to remove a lot of things, but it still does not really work. So I don't know. So for me, I think we are not getting the economic, especially monetary policy. We're not getting it.
Now, I want us to look at some of the thoughts of the, what's it called now, the finance minister. You know, he said in quotes, I think this was just a few weeks back, he said 2 critical reforms on market-based price of premium motor spirit, PMS, and foreign exchange are now at the stage of results delivery. By extension, the viability of the nation's economy through restoration of fiscal viability. Now, how do you make sense of that statement from the finance minister? Is there really hope?
Well, Nigeria is a country of hope. I remember their mantra.
But hope is not enough. We keep saying hope, hope.
Renew hope. But for what is seen about the price of PMS, I don't think it's not even in our hand. It's not even in government's hand because you don't have the tool to actually control it. It is not in the hand of more of Dangote and marketers. They
said market forces. That was the narrative.
That's why I love market forces when you open the door for importation. That's where you can see real market force because importation can bring in the double.
But that was the same narrative that was used to pull off the so-called unification of exchange rates.
Well,
so why is it not balancing in terms of?
I can agree with you. You know, our forex takes about 40% in terms of importation of fuel. Right, it takes. Well, you can drive it down to like 10% or 5%. Just allow little importation to come so that you can actually control the price. But if you say it's Dangote, you know, do you know the struggle the marketers went through before Dangote even allowed to be, before they come to an agreement? You recall now, is it Petro and one group?
Ipman.
A lot of them have to like do a lot of series of, and at the point Dangote said, I'm not determining the price. The federal government, NNPC will determine the price because they still expect there should be a level of subsidy. So I think it's a good one. If we get that area right, you know, it should be. But for me, from look of things, I don't see those prices coming down to like 700 because anything 700 would be significant to show in day-to-day activities of Nigeria.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we still have a lot to break down regarding some of the president's economic efforts and inputs to actually get our economy working back again. And of course, Dr. Ali is still here with us. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? Order. The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join LN 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch politics now on LN 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on LN 24/7.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still focusing on the economy under the Tinubu administration. Now, you have the likes of Charles Soludo, you know, who make up the NEC committee. You seem to be smiling, but for me, I would say that I expected a lot, and I want to believe that Nigerians expected a lot because these are people, you know, who are revered in the world of economics. So I'm wondering, when you look at the executive economic team and, you know, some of the inputs that ought to have translated to some form, you know, of a better economy, which the government, you know, claims to have achieved. I just have to put that out there. But for you, how do you look at some of the inputs that they contributed?
Right. So you made mention of Soludo. I must tell you that in terms of the best CBN governor, I think he did perform exceedingly well because we see the capitalization that we're about to do, and he managed it because he's not a banker. And I must also tell you this: so some people are better appointed than being the chief executive officer sometimes. Yes, because it's two different ball game. When you take control and when you are the one, you can see it from Anambra State. You know, when the Soludo is coming on board, a lot of us expect a miracle. We have got to see that it's a system.
You were expecting a miracle.
So a lot of us discover that it's now a system that has to also cope in and try to.
Is that because of subsidy removal?
Now?
Yes.
So what he has done as a governor, we have to speak for him at this. But let's go to the executive, the Mr. President. You know, Mr. President seems to be adamant in some areas, and we must say it. He believes in people he knows. People that have worked with him before. Because if you look at the economic team, I can tell you these are people that he has worked with over time.
So you're saying that's politics speaking and not more of what was needed for us as a nation.
That's why even there is even issue on tax reform. Very laudable idea, you know, good thing to come. But people are saying, hey, come, these people that constitute this, this finance, Minister of Finance,
CBN governor.
CBN governor. You can see that it's like, you know,
the same Lagos boys.
So people are now thinking, in that case, we just have to. So imagine if another tribe, even an Igbo, let me use an Hausa man, is heading one of those things. You know, the perspective in terms of politics now will work. But as an elite, upcoming elite, so to say.
You are an elite already.
As an upcoming elite, we will be looking at it from different levels and let's do competency. But how well is the competency? How well have they delivered in terms of fiscal and monetary policy? Even with trade policy. You can see what happened in the Ministry of Trade again. You can see the woman who actually came. Is still so these are the things that we need to look at. So sometimes when you are appointing people, you need to look at the situation on ground. When they appoint Cardoso and Waniero, people like us are saying, well, they are good. And some of us do not like using direct bank CEO, like Emefiele did, coming back to, because believe it will serve his people more with somebody who has adjusted a bit. But even at that, how well is the economic policy? For me, Cardoso has not really performed as expected. Because if you look at the NPR, the NPC meetings, they are just doing the same thing over time. So,
well, you heard the president during the media chat where he said he's very confident, in in his cabinet. Yes. Did that shock you? Looking at the economy today,
he's a good leader. So you don't expect, he's a good leader. So you don't expect a good leader to come to the public and condemn. That's an indictment on him. You can rather say, okay, let me change this person, without communicating to the public. Perhaps I think the scorecard for 2 years will be fine for most of them. But for Cardoso, even Emefiele, when Emefiele was there, even though he had his own shortcomings, there are some things that are still going on well for him. The dollar is not as expensive as this. The NPR is not at this level. He still manage those things. So I think he should manage them well. Remember, even the issue of Forex, we say it's from people from cryptocurrency that are causing that problem. We said it's really the change that is causing our problem.
And after all the clampdown.
After all this trying and error, as you say, we still remain at 34%. So that's.
What about the continuous increase in interest rates?
That's the NPR. That's the major problem because it's discouraging. As a businessman, let me think from my own perspective. So if I know that if I borrow money, I'm going to pay about 30% interest rate, and I have some money, I also say, okay, this is my money. Instead of me investing it to really employ people, I'll go and keep it in the bank to also collect what and interest. And that's the problem that we're actually facing. MSME find it difficult to breathe. Manufacturing sector are crying every now and then that they cannot actually buy raw material. And I've not seen a direct intervention. The government earmarks some money for them, but giving money there's only something like enabling environment. Where you have a good environment, very conducive environment. A good example. Pharmaceutical products. I don't know who has been to hospital recently. May God help us in Nigeria. You see how expensive things are. you know that no, we have not really get it right in terms of why, as they are going, GSK and Co, as they are moving out of Nigeria, you should have a substitution. Okay, you come, take this fund. You know, that's to support, so that we won't have the effect. But I can tell you, the negative effect is very, very high on Nigerians. We are suffering for purchasing power in terms of not buying what to eat. Now, if someone falls sick, it's not something easy to come.
Well, the president, you know, is pretty confident that things will turn a new leaf. Now, are some of these policies, is it easy to walk them back? Because you talked about the benefits of removing subsidy, but that of, you know, the unification of the exchange rate was something that you felt that, okay, this should have, you know, still remain. Can that policy be walked back?
You see, my another issues that I have with this current administration, I'm not seeing their short-term plan, medium-term plan, and long-term plan. So it appears they are actually reactive to issues, not proactive. You know, as a government, they're supposed to bring out a particular policy framework.
Yeah.
Obasanjo need, see. You know, it brought about that, and you know that will resonate with the state, the local government, even private business people. We decided that okay, let's key into it. So what are you actually key into? You get, that's just our problem. So just example of CNG, I'll go back again. What is local government doing to solve problem of CNG? So imagine if each local government has CNG station and conversion thing. So imagine if every state actually have, some states now do not even have CNG.
One CNG pot.
I can tell you, state like Kwara State, I don't think if they have, maybe they have one and trying to struggle about it. So why for Abuja we are seeing and we are expecting more for Lagos? So it should, you know, permeate everywhere so that we can actually see the aggregate benefit of those. So I think current government is much more reactive than being. Perhaps they did not see the fallout of fuel subsidy removal compared to the way it is now.
All right, now let's move the conversation forward. Now, there was something that was pretty clear about President Bola Tinubu, that tax reforms were a major focus of his administration in order to lay a strong fiscal and revenue foundation for sustainable economic growth. Now, the bills, which of course are still in the National Assembly, seek to outline all taxes in the country hitherto administered by different laws. And of course, you look at some of the bills that were presented to the National Assembly, they started to generate diverse reactions and controversies. Some argue that the reforms are necessary to modernize our tax system, improve revenue collection, and support economic growth. They point to the potential benefits of a simplified tax code, reduced tax rates, and increased investment incentives. However, critics express concerns about potential negative impacts on businesses and individuals. They argue that the reforms could increase the tax burden on certain sectors, discourage investment, and exacerbate income inequality. And the proposed changes to the value-added tax distribution have also sparked debate, with some regions expressing concerns about revenue losses. Now, I mean, we've had the conversation about the tax the proposed tax bills, of course, which you helped us to make better sense of. Now, prior to that time and now, there's been a whole lot of conversation about it. And you look at the fact that, I mean, the president has said that this is needful. Coming from your point of perspective, I'm sure you are the economics. There are a lot of things that you know that the layman does not really know. So how do you make somebody who is, I know you're for the tax bill, 100%, apart from the revision formula, which you were pretty against. So now that you've seen and heard more reactions to this, I mean, what's going through your mind as we wrap up the year?
Right. I think one of the best things to happen to us in this Fourth Republic is tax reform. It's quite obsolete. It doesn't really. In fact, at this age, you still go on the street and you see people with stick and nail throwing it on the ground for you. You know, it's pretty difficult. So I think what will happen now is that it's a good reform. However, you know, there's need to have political buy-in, and that's why it's political economy. You know, the interplay between politics and economy. You must marry the two together. As the tax is very good some of us even go ahead and say, okay, you said people that earn less than 1 million below will not be taxed. We want you to even move it to 2.5 million naira. You know why? People that earn that below before, the value is not the same value now. So the salary is 100,000 naira before, it's as if you are collecting 5,000 naira now compared to. So once it's jack up, it's a good one. Then people that are into business, you know, they're going to be exempted if they are earning less than they are maybe turnover less than 50 million. That's a good one. But the only challenge is that there's a serious politics going on in National Assembly now. You know, other people, some people are thinking, don't allow this president to just come every time to decide what he actually wants without considering people. So for instance, let's look at first subsidy removal. President just came. I'm not sure anybody's out. He's not even in the speech. Just say first subsidy is gone. So he went ahead to do the notification of Naira. So now he went ahead and bring, you know, his tax, you know, his tax is an executive bill. He bring it again. People are now saying no. Let's just make sure that he did embark on the needful. And that's why you can see him. He is also saying, okay, Attorney General, have you know, get to meet with them and what have you. It's just to buy time so that he can really convince people the more. But for the tax, what have you, it's a good one. And the formula now is now better, and governors are now much more for. But remember, governors want to have their say too, no matter what. Especially governors from. I listened to Governor Bauchi. He said it point blank that if President Tinubu did not withdraw that maybe some days ago, that is going to see going to pay the price. You know, that statement is not from him. Don't take it from him. It could be, you know, collective agreement within them. So, but for me,
especially those who can't really speak out,
I don't want president to be a president that will be authoritarian. He must also convince his people. Somebody can be opposition and for the president, you know, it's possible. So you should look into that area.
But there are economics like yourself, you know, who are fully in support. And these are probably people that are not really for the president because they are looking at they are looking at the future, whereby some states don't really have to depend solely on these FAC allocations.
Right.
Why are we not having that conversation?
Right. You see, that conversation is that most governors have got to see what's happening and they are planning, I must tell you. But the fact is that I think that FAC allocation is becoming illegis that we must find a way to actually work on. So for me, I think there's what is called counterpart funding, whereby is it UBE or you beg rather that government, you have to put a particular amount before government will come. Do you know up till now most states have not done their part and they cannot access the fund? If that kind of thing could come for factory, I think it would be better. What are you doing? What is the percentage of the revenue you are generating? You know, though we cannot compare it like Lagos to Kogi in terms of revenue, but you have to just move. I'm sure you do something within that will benefit your state. You know, to bring economy activities that you also generate from. Most states are doing it, and they are doing actually very well. So that's why we must go beyond selecting mediocre as a leader. Because once you have people that cannot actually think out of the box, it's become pretty difficult. They'll just come 4 years, 8 years, and it will just go like that, and nothing happens to the state because they are getting they go to the federal government and collect FAC. In fact, from some papers this morning said that some states are spending beyond their means because they have FAC that is actually coming. In fact, they are projecting some activities looking at the income that will be coming through FAC. Too bad.
Really, really bad. Now, let's talk just some more about some of the political dynamics regarding these tax bills. Because, you know, I was talking with Mr. Jide Ojo earlier on, and he was saying the president is ready to compromise. Now, when you look at some of because we all know that 2027 is very important to the president, do you see the president pulling this down if it continues to get the heat that it is getting?
But from his speech, he said, from his chat, in that chat, he said there's nothing like that. I don't think the bill are not bad. You know, it's 4. We are only looking at 1, and that one he can compromise. You know how you can call them and say, what exactly do you want? Okay, I will give A, you let go of B, and that's because federation itself. Because you cannot neglects a particular entity while you are taking the whole decision. And you know, people are thinking that okay, this will benefit Ogun State, Lagos State, and others will be left behind. So anything that will take them along, I think that's why government must. That's why it's called government. You know, collectivity, collective. So I think he buys time by telling the Attorney General to look into it and make decisions. So I think he must compromise because this is government. It's not a military affair. This is a democracy. So democracy will have their say while you have your way, but you need to consider them.
So at how many percent will this jack up our revenue by the time these tax bills become come online, which is definitely looking likely for early 2025?
I cannot readily say it.
And was that used as a variable to propose the project for 2025?
I think that was a major problem. You know, President was opined, in my own view, that they would have passed the tax bill before the budget, and you can see that the budget has actually been affected. It has slipped into next year. But I'm sure everything on that budget does not consider tax reform at all. And that's why I think maybe after first, second quarter, there's always an additional budget that would have capture it and get more revenue. But I must tell you, we need more revenue because that our budget needs to be jacked up. Look at social infrastructure is barely little above the debt servicing. So we are seeing schools, health, education, housings. We are saying that sum is what we capture it. We are still joking if we want to actually get that development we are yearning for.
Now, let's focus more on the 2025 budget. You know, I was speaking to an economics friend, and he was, making a light of the fact that the allocation for agriculture, which is also very important to the Nigerian economy, that it is too low. That's, I think, 800 billion now. So when you look at that amount allocated for agriculture, what is, how would that play out?
Well,
is it too small? Is it too low?
Check the entirety, but agriculture has been divided. So we have a lot of parastatals under agriculture. So I don't know if it's a combination is saying or the Ministry of Agriculture, because we have livestock now.
No, that's the whole sum for agriculture.
Well, for that whole sum, that's why I said I was harping on the entire budget. That you cannot have more than that for agriculture because the budget itself is too small, and before you now remove defense and security, this is the main place gopping our money now. So you have to increase the revenue and increase the budget, because if you don't increase revenue, there's no way you can increase budget. So government is in the right direction, trying to carry out some reform that will bring in more money. And if you look at this government, I think they are much more of income. They want to get more money to spend.
Okay, now you heard during that media chat where he said Nigeria will have to borrow more. What did you make of that assertion from him?
Well, as an economist, I think borrowing is not bad at all.
That's what you people keep saying.
For me, I want.
But you have the likes of Obasanjo who says, we are just putting our grandchildren, in big trouble.
So what if we prepare a grant for our grandchildren to work upon? It's the same thing. Okay, let's look at the best three economies in the world: America, China, maybe Japan. Look at them; they are the highest borrower, and they are having significant development. Let's go back to Warri government. Warri borrowed Sukuk. Have you not seen Sukuk Road? Warri borrowed for railway. Are you not seeing it? Those things cannot pay themselves. It's not possible, but they will have social benefits that would have helped Nigerians to actually do more in terms of their businesses and activities. Because people that will follow, if you get money, the money you are realizing through railway, if you want to use it to pay back the debt, is not possible. But it has had some economic benefits, social infrastructure benefits, Nigeria will benefit from. So for me, I want us to borrow big. And why did I say so? We have deficits in our housing in Nigeria, and the amount that is going to solve the problem, according to the estimate, is 6 trillion. So why not let's think through that. Okay, let's even borrow the 6 trillion and solve the problem of housing over time. So if we can solve those problems, it will help us to actually move further. But if you are borrowing 1 trillion, 2 trillion, for me, I believe we should borrow.
How about your ability to pay back?
Right.
Shouldn't that be
like what I said, paying back is not that thing you are borrowing for, in as much as it's project-tied loan. Paying back will not be a problem. You know what I said? Project-tied loan. Not that you get loan, you now via it to recurrent expenditure. But if it is project-tied and it's capital expenditure, it's a good one. That's how we can go. Sir, if you look at our roads, we need more money to fix those roads. And we need to get that money. So if you don't borrow, so how will you fund it? The only thing we should do now is that we should increase our source of revenue. Because if we don't increase our source of revenue, we have more issues. And that's why we said sometimes you don't even need to increase tax. Like they want to increase VAT from 7.5 to 10, this is 2026, then 2030 maybe to 15. You don't need it. Bring people more into the tax net. I think that's the key. And that's what digitalization of tax process will bring about.
Now, you look at the 2024 budget, it said budget of renewed hope. So this one now is budget of restoration. So looking at 2024 speaking, overall, how would you rate the Tinubu-led administration?
Well, in terms of revenue.
Economy now.
Yeah, in terms of revenue, yes, Tinubu is actually doing. In terms of policy direction, like I said, Tinubu does not actually give Nigerians his plans. We don't have the short plan, the term, the long term. We cannot really be following him. That okay, he said this will happen in the next 2 years. He said this will happen in the next 2 years. He only said he wanted 3 trillion for GDP or so. There's a way he projects. You only have projection. What about the workability of that project? So that even the private sector can key into those projects. So for me, for revenue, is doing well. But in terms of policy direction, in terms of the impacts, we have more negative externalities. In terms of poverty is dipping the more in Nigeria, and there's need for relief in that direction. And relief will not be sharing money. We are becoming a palliative country. Some of us don't have no palliative, because once you give me palliative for 3 months, when I exhaust it, what happen again? Why not making sure that they can't burden, the food I'm buying, become cheaper? That is what we expect from the president.
So now, given the direction that we are on now, what needs to change as 2025, just in less than 2 days, will be in 2025? What needs to change?
For me, monetary policy, I think the CBN governor needs to change the hawkish approach. Stop sacrificing growth because you want to have inflation drop. I think that area is very, 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 very key. Then the other thing is transportation. If you look at the cost of living now, transport and food is taking it more. So we must do, according to the president, he said he gave out 10 billion to each state or so to actually get CNG and whatever. We have not seen the results. We need those results so that people can find it much more easier. Even in Abuja, we have not seen those long buses that will take people from Uganda, from Maraba, from Sulawesi, that will actually lessen the burden of the cost we are expending on transportation.
And these were promises that were made in 2023.
In fact, let me
and 2024 is rounding up.
Promise that President promised. He said we declared state of emergency on food security. You recall, in July 2023, up till now, we have not seen a major impact of that food. He said each state will do this. And that time, some of us are saying that land in state belongs to state. It doesn't belong to federal. You need to go and sit down with these governors to tell us. No, we see some governors doing well, like Niger State, trying to have a mega farming system that will solve food crisis. And he also said, don't export food from my state. He also said so. So these are the things that we need to look at. So for me, I think we need to do more in terms of transportation and food security.
All right. Well, many thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, Dr. Ali Ilyas, a political economist. I mean, there's just so much that we would love to talk about, but our time is not on our side. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's the much we can take. I'll see you next time right here on LN 24/7. Once again, my name is Morna Balagogo. Many thanks for watching.